I was a nerdy little poor kid from South LA without much of a personality outside the house. At home, I was the comic relief, as my sister called me. But at school, I was the quiet, well-behaved smart kid. So I ran with it, to the point where I was trapped in a box. Music was always a major part of the household. My father, the musician who played for the church, and my older brothers who kept the radio on all day, usually on the alternative rock station. But I never really took notice until Green Day's American Idiot became popular and inescapable. It didn't take long to realize that their older music had somehow been engraved in my subconscious, and I had pretty much grown up listening to them. Even when I thought I was listening to Longview for the very first time, I magically found myself knowing every lyric. Intrigued, I wanted to know more about them. I backtracked and started seeing parallels. Small, poor, youngest of 6, obviously never had braces, dealing with life with a sense of humor, and just doing what they want no matter what the backlash. The last one was something I had yet to accomplish. High school was where I saw my first real-life punks. I befriended them by simply talking to them, which was something many people were afraid to do. They were the funniest, friendliest, most open-minded people I've ever met, and we still stay in contact to this day. I got more and more into the music, bands leading to other bands, subgenre to subgenre, which naturally led to everything else. And the best part was that I was still myself. Still the smartest kid in class. My mom still walked me to the bus stop every morning. But now I didn't care what people thought of me, and I enjoyed challenging the stereotypes. I liked who I was, and I was looking forward to new adventures and taking new risks. I felt invincible. Freshman year was probably the best year ever. I did miss my family and friends at home, but I was living in a beautiful city and quickly made new amazing friends. During the summer, I was back with my old friends and even formed a band named Moggy Don't Piss No More. We made our own recordings and booked our first show in our friend's backyard. I absolutely loved being in a band. But that's when everything changed. All of a sudden, I was back in LA, spending all my free time in my mom's hospital room. My mom was diagnosed with bile duct cancer and had complications during her operation. I was a college dropout, my band broke up for unrelated reasons, and I was working 40 plus hours a week trying to pay off my debt. I was constantly tired, I wore nothing but my work uniform, I reeked of processed meat, and my hair was dyed a natural shade of brown. I became numb. I didn't know who I was anymore, but it didn't matter for the time being. I had to be strong for my family. I remembered being at the San Jose train station with all my belongings packed up, ready to go home to LA for good. That's where I met Tegan. She commented on one of the patches on my clothes, and we instantly formed a bond. We were both alone, but she took comfort in my bright orange hair, various patches, and lace-up boots. I took comfort in her blonde mohawk, studded vest, and blue shoelaces in her Doc Martens. She's actually the reason why I now wear colored laces in mine. We exchanged stories about the shows we'd been to, the people we knew, the places we'd been. She told me she lived in a warehouse in Oakland, and that I was welcome to stop by or even stay if I was ever in the area. We exchanged numbers before my bus arrived, even though I was pessimistic about ever leaving LA again. Ironically, my phone was lost and possibly crushed in a backyard show in Compton, I think, so I never got in contact with her. Despite the chaos that was engulfing and threatening to consume my life, I started going to shows and DIY workshops more, even if I was exhausted after work. My best friend and I slowly started getting back to band practice where I could play my guitar loud and scream at the top of my lungs. And in response to not being able to dye my hair, I shaved the sides of my head instead. It helped keep me sane, even after my mom passed. After about a year, I paid off my loan, I quit my job, dyed my hair, and went back to UCSC. It was an adjustment going back and living with my friends again, but soon it was like I'd never left in the first place. I started feeling like myself again, and it was easily the happiest I'd been in a while. I'd even gone to my first punk show in Santa Cruz and got my head split open in the pit. My forehead and nose were swollen, and I had dark purple circles under my eyes for over a week. I regret nothing. Of course, the ugly head of reality had shown itself. My friends were all excited to graduate, and I was merely a spectator. I was happy for them, of course, but that didn't stop the small week-long depression I went through. I started reliving everything, and I couldn't cope with their happiness. It was everything that I was supposed to be a part of. They didn't have to drop out of school and think they'd never go back. They didn't have to be harassed by customers and coworkers every day. They didn't see their mom wake up and not recognize her own daughter. They didn't witness their dad break down and cry in the car. They didn't stand there and watch their mom die. I took it all in as part of the healing process and found peace in being vulnerable with myself from time to time. I got my head right again and had an amazing summer. But then here came September again. A new school year and the second anniversary of my mom's death. And this time I had to face it alone. I felt like I'd aged so much in such a short period of time. I no longer feel like the baby of the family. Everything had changed, and it made me question the longevity of how I've chosen to live my life. So who am I now?
Little kid, did you wake up late one day and you're not so young, but you're still dumb and you're numb to your glory, but now it's gone.
But then I met Billy Joe Armstrong from Green Day recently, which put things into perspective. Meeting him reminded me of how it all started and how far I've come. Yes, it may seem silly to some people, and some may say there's an age limit, that everything comes to an end, the end of my childhood, the end of my mother, the end of an era. But I'm not going to worry about it too much. We'll see where life takes me, and I'll keep listening.
Keep listening to the great Joe's drummer, 'cause through music we can live forever, and I know